G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute and today I'm joined by...
Algared
We
and
were... Oh, sorry.
welcome.
Sorry. Me and Algared were having a discussion about what happened today on Calling All Devs and the sneak peek that was revealed for not this Thursday but the next, that there's a new Drake ship coming. And we were looking at a whole bunch of different things, and we've come up with some stuff that we haven't heard anyone else talk about, and just the bouncing back and forth, and we wanted to share it with you guys and see what you think, see if we're on the right track, because I think we've come up with some pretty cool stuff, and I think it's worth sharing. So I guess...
Well, the sneak peek was kind of Herald-esque or Eclipse, like kind of like the Eclipse, but was very staticky, very hard to see. And some smart person kind of cleaned it up a little, and
Yep.
based on that,
Should we jump into Photoshop?
yeah, why not?
So I've got my Photoshop window here. This is the actual cleaned up image. And you can see here that they've stitched it together. So there was about 6 or 7 images, and you can see they've, all together. And originally, when we were talking our grid, we thought this was 2 separate bikes from a concept, didn't we?
Yeah,
And the
we
thing
thought
that...
there was two different variants, possible different ideas of what the bike would look like.
Yeah. And then we noticed these headlights or floodlights, and that's kind of what made us think that. And then I kind of had an epiphany when I was talking to Algared, and I went, Algared, do you notice these, mate? Well, that's the headlights. Do you notice these, mate? And it's these pipes that are running down the side, and they're actually mirrors of each other. And if you actually look at this part right... Hang on, I'll just make a new layer. Right here, and here, they are the same, but mirrored.
They're mirrored images, and you got the same with the outer shell as well. You can see the top of the outer shell on the far side and on the side closest to us, and that made us think we've actually got two things exactly the same, two arms.
Yeah.
And that made us think Defender.
Yeah. Well, the the shape of the ship made us think Defender, because it's a U-shaped ship, so Defender-esque. And then we started thinking about what are these other things that we can see on the ship. So we clearly can see some type of arm here folded away, whether it's a cutter, grabber, laser, or whatever. But now if you start to use that and think about gameplay, that would be used to take larger ships into this ship for processing of some description. So if this is a cutter and it breaks it up, you can also make out here at the back some kind of thing that looks a bit like a weapon or tractor beam that would pull it into the ship.
Or maybe even a different type of processing unit.
Yeah. We're not quite too sure on what these components are, but, just speculating. And then these big ones here, they kind of look like something like either cargo containers or some kind of processing type of facility.
And when we were thinking containers, we thought, well, that's 10 containers. That is roughly the same number of containers the Prospector has. And so we were tossing that idea.
Yep.
But in the end, we thought that shape is just wrong. It just doesn't look like a container. And so we thought maybe it's more likely to be some form of processing unit.
Yeah, so if you kind of look at it from a gameplay perspective...
It moved.
Yeah, what if it, cuts up chunks with the arms, it's pulled in via the tractor beam, and it's just held in position there. And these things, whether they disintegrate it or melt it, basically using that hose system, suck it to the back of the ship, kind of like what the Pioneer does with the... Not Pioneer, sorry, Prospector does with its mining. And there are storage containers at the back for metal, like liquid metal, or whether it's liquid or chunks, and they go to the back of the ship.
And the other thing that made us think that this is an option is the fact that if you've got a processing plant that's kind of melting the raw materials, then you're going to have that situation where you've got to keep an eye on it, because if there's a foreign matter in there, or you're not keeping an eye, it could explode, ammunition, different component that hasn't been defueled. And so you've got to keep an eye on that stuff as well. So that gives you gameplay rather than just picking up and tossing it in the back.
Yeah. And I think the next thing we talked about was the size and the back of the ship. I think that's where we're up to, Algared. So,
it is.
Going back into Photoshop again. I need to change layers here. Bear with me. I'm having a little issue here doing this on the fly. What I did was I started to draw things out here. So this is what it would kind of look like if both sides were the same. And then I started to picture about whereabouts a person would sit at the back. So the other question we started to think about was, if this has to go into atmosphere, is it an open canopy? Is it a closed canopy? But that was kind of hard because there are no human reference points. So other than these headlights, and they could be headlights or floodlights, so we don't know the actual physical size of this, so it's very hard to attain the entire size of the ship. But this ship, would you say, Algared, would be somewhere between a large bike to Freelancer Connie size, somewhere in there?
I'd definitely say large bike up, and I'd say that mainly because when they did the show where we were talking about the next Drake ship, the winner was the Vulture, and when they were first initially concepting it, their idea was this is a bike, and they were talking open canopy, and so my thinking was initially that this will be an open canopy because that's what they've got in their head, so that's going to be there.
Yeah,
but
I really get the visual of this ship, like when you take the name Vulture, it's the type of like a little, like when I think of the bike flying around the corpse of the ship, so to speak, and it's kind of picking at it, I think more of a bike than a ship, but that's to be determined. But I think one of the things you said earlier when we were talking about this, Algared, was if the Prospector is for mining, this would be that ship for salvaging.
Yeah, and that means that for us, we're saying it's more planet-side based salvage. But just like the Prospector, even though it specialises at planet side, it still goes up and picks out the pieces, the choice bits, the Orion's left.
Yeah,
and
because it's going to be easier to get things like the Prospector and the Vulcan down to planet rather than those big ships. Like, I just don't see the value in a reclaimer going down to a planet to get an Aurora. But I could see this going down there. And again, with the processing things that we've seen in there, is this a solo ship or is it a two-person ship? Which would be to be determined, because you're going to need someone that operates the arms, and then you're going to have the tractor beam and the melting. So is that one on chopping up and feeding and one melting, or is it one person chops up and the tractor beam just holds the chunk? So there's a couple of gameplay things in there.
Yeah, and you could even go up to 3 people. You know, one controlling a tractor, one controlling the processing, one flying the ship.
Yep.
So that would be the maximum, I think we'd say. So up to, say, freelancer size.
I'm gonna go back and say 2B because I don't think the ship will be moving if it's chopping up a ship, but that's just me.
But you know, it's that type of, that'd be the max size would go. And I'd go as big as a Prospector in size rather than anything else.
So similar. I think it could be a little bigger than the Prospector, but again, we can only really see this front part of the ship, and I think they really wanted to highlight that melting part or the processing part. I think it is the key part of this ship, and I think the more I think about it, the more I go over it in my head, it is more likely to be something that melts it rather than some kind of system there just to pick up stuff. I think you were when we were talking about, we were mentioning things from Star Wars like the pod races with plasma that can just it just disintegrates everything into tiny little like pellets or particles that are picked up, or it's melted and sucked in and it becomes liquid. And do you know, it could literally be even, it goes to the back of the ship and it's put into little molds and turned into bricks.
Yep.
Like, you just don't know because we can't see that back part of the ship.
You can't see it, but it certainly seems clear that they're showing us that centre bit, which is the real key part of a ship. And if it's containers, that's not exciting.
Yeah, and I think the reason we both kind of came to a conclusion why we dismissed the idea of containers is the shape. There is no really tall, elongated cargo containers at the moment, and we started to lean away from that idea and have gone more to what we've presented to you today.
Because it just seemed, to us, it just seemed to be a better shape, a better fit.
And if you want to, I think we'll kind of start to wrap it up here, because this is not going to be a very long show, because it was just short and concise. But there was, when we had a look around for ships that were U-shaped or Defender-esque, there was one that came up from Star Wars called the Koro, which is Koro, that you can search for. It was in episode 2 with the scene where they were following one of the bounty hunters in Coruscant, and it looks very similar to what I'd first imagined this ship to be. But again, this ship could be a lot larger at the back. You just don't know, because we're only getting a zoomed in image.
I've got to admit, when you showed me that picture, to me that went, it just filled in all the dots, and I went, that would be it. And it made sense of it being a closed canopy rather than open canopy, because that way the ship could go through Atmo, go into our space, do the picking off the bits that the reclaimers left behind. It could also still go into the planet. So to me, I think we were leaning more towards closed rather than open, even though we were thinking they'd have had that in their head from the start. But
yeah, so I think we'll wrap it up there. If you like this video, like it. If you don't like it, don't like it. But either way, I'd really like to hear from you guys on your speculations on what you think this ship would be. Do you think we're kind of on the money, or do you think we've totally missed the plot? Let us know, and we try to read. I definitely read every comment. I might not reply to every comment, but I definitely read every single one. And I know Algared's in there as well. And Hayes is not with us today because he's not feeling so well. We do have another show lined up that'll hopefully come out this week or maybe next week. But it's a bigger and better one. So I've been Execute, and this is
Algared, and don't forget, we do have Discord.
Oh, forgot about that. Sorry. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Take care.